Welcome to the Smith Publicity All Things Book Marketing Podcast, offering tips, insights, and advice from the best in the publishing industry.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of All Things Book Marketing. I'm your host, Olivia McCoy, and today I have the CEO and founder of Four Eagles Publishing, Tarryn Reeves, on to join us. Hi.
Hey, everyone. So excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, excited to have you. I'd love to get started by having you explain what you do and how you help authors.
Yeah, for sure. So as Olivia mentioned, I am the founder of Four Eagles Publishing, and my team and I, we are hybrid publishers, and we work with entrepreneurs to create best-selling books that act as marketing tools and authority builders for their businesses. So we help them in the kind of three phases, if you like. We've got writing, we've got publishing, and we've got marketing. So we can kind of offer that full service, all round, done for you packaging, I guess. So yeah, if you've got an idea, we can help you write it. We can write it on your behalf. You can write it. We can publish it. So yeah, that's kind of how we work.
And you work primarily with entrepreneurs, business authors?
I do primarily work with entrepreneurs and business authors. However, I've done a book for somebody who works within the United Nations. I've done an art book. I've done children's books. So it's kind of whatever lands across my desk. If I go, yeah, this really needs to be published, let's do it. But, obviously when it comes to marketing, we know that you can't market to everybody. You have to be very specific about who you market to. And so, yeah, that's why primarily it's nonfiction entrepreneurial books, because I have a huge amount of experience in that area myself. I've had 3 businesses prior to this one. So yeah, it's just something I'm super passionate about.
I heard that actually talking about books and entrepreneurs writing, that sort of topic is one of your favorites.
Oh, yes. Yes. I've just seen the magic that can happen as a marketing tool or a lead generation tool that can come from having a book as part of your business strategy. It really is one of the simplest things to do, and everyone thinks it's this huge, overwhelming thing, but it doesn't have to be. When you work with a team and you work with a professional who is going to hold your hand every single step of the way, you can do it, and then you can produce this amazing high quality book, and it will work for you for years and years and years to come. It's just a no-brainer to me. I'm like, why does everyone not have a book? Why is this not a
I know every time that my colleagues and I are copying and pasting each other's answers, we're like, why don't we just write a book? Why don't we just put this in a book? Like, we could do that.
You should put it in a book, like the All Things Book Marketing book. I would buy that.
I like that. I'm gonna bring that to the leadership and see what they say.
Write that down.
So let's dive in a little bit more about the impact storytelling can have on a successful business, or how storytelling can help create a successful business.
Yeah, for sure. So storytelling doesn't just help businesses. Storytelling has this amazing effect on a human being, on us as people connected together. So if you think about it, from the moment human beings somehow magically ended up on this earth, whatever your belief system around that is, we have been telling stories. And whether that was sitting around the campfire and people telling stories, scratching rock paintings onto rock faces, then we moved to like leather and papyrus and paper and speeches and things like that. All of this is a form of storytelling, and it's how we learn. It's how we pass down law. It's how we pass down culture. It's how we connect emotionally as a human being. Now, because we are tribal kind of pack animals, people, whatever you want to call us, we rely on this connection to go, this is my person, this is my person, these people get me, I'm safe here, these are not my people. And all of this is happening rapid fire on a subconscious basis. It's not like we're aware of it. So when somebody is brave enough, and it does take courage to get up and tell their story in a very real, raw, and vulnerable way, and go, this is my experience, this is what I learned, this is what happened to me, then the people reading that or listening to that, because you've got storytelling and story writing, and they're very much intertwined, the people can go, oh, they've got the same values as me. They've got the same family unit as me. They like doing the same things as me. They've experienced similar challenges to me. And the whole time we're going, yes, this is my person. Yes, this is my person. Or alternatively, no, this person is not for me. And both are good, right? Especially from a business perspective, because traditionally in business, we're so used to seeing this polished corporate kind of shop front version of, you know, this is the person, or this is the service, or this is the product. People, that doesn't build trust, right? That doesn't build connection. And if you want people to hand money over to you, they need to trust you. They need to like you. They need to recognize parts of themselves in you or your product or your service. And the fastest, most effective way to do that is storytelling. So even on website copy, that's a story that brand is telling you, right? But when you have a book, and you're telling, and it's a nonfiction book, especially, you're breaking down that kind of polished barrier, and you're going, this is me. You know, this is why I do what I do. This is why I'm the expert in my area. This is me as a human being, and not this strange business entity that's kind of like so far removed from reality. It bridges that gap so fast that people can automatically go, yep, I love this person. Like, let me go and join their Facebook community, or download their free product, their free resource, or join their membership, or buy their one-on-one services, or buy their product. And that's how it works, you know? So, and then, you know, we can build funnels and things around the book as a lead generation tool. And that's a whole, you know, rabbit hole we could go down, but there's so many different ways you can use a book. You know, you can just distribute it, get it out into bookstores, or you can take it to your speeches so that somebody, when they hear you speak, they go, okay, I want more. And then at the back of the room, you've got this book that they can then take away from this meeting room or this boardroom into their own home, into their space. And then the way that I specifically teach entrepreneurs to write, and this is key, is we write in a way that invites the reader continuously off the pages and into their business world in some way, shape, or form.
You know, I really like the way you worded that, because I always hear about business books as like a really fancy business card, you know, like a calling card for you, something they can take away from speeches. But I like the way you said, take it home into their space. And I think what I like about that is because we're always talking about the vulnerability it takes to share your story, to write it. But I guess it kind of didn't even cross my mind that readers are being vulnerable, taking that person, that knowledge, that material into their own personal lives, into their space, wherever they're consuming it.
Absolutely, 100%. And it's, you know, I see it as a relationship. It is. If someone has connected enough with, you know, and this comes into marketing, like your book cover or the book blurb, and they've gone, yep, this can solve my problem, or this is something I need to know about, or, you know, I just really feel like I need to pick up this book and read it. That's such an honor, you know, for somebody to pick your book out of the millions and millions and millions that are now on offer, and to take it into their space and to spend their most precious resource in the modern day world of time to read it. You want it to be good. You want to be delivering that value that they were seeking, right? And then to go, hey, if you want more, come and play with me in this area in my Facebook group or wherever it is, right? And it's continuously nurturing that relationship. And I always say, if you do one thing with your book, and that is to change somebody else's life, because books honestly do change lives.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really transformative experience, both for the writer and for the reader when done correctly. And it's life-changing. So if they don't come and buy your product or service, but they took away something and they learned something, and they were then able to go on and, you know, create something or do something, and then they inspired somebody else, and then that person inspired somebody else. It's like little flashes of light going off across the globe, you know, of inspiration from this one piece of content, this one person being brave enough to go, you know what? This is it all on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's truly amazing. Then of course you add in all the bonus of, then you do business out of it and all that sort of thing, and you're changing lives in that aspect too. And I love that impact. It's amazing.
It is. It is. And I want to go and talk about storytelling in business. My brain automatically goes to like a business fable, some fictional account or situation that is used to illustrate a specific point or takeaway or not. And I've worked with a few that have been very successful because it is kind of like writing fiction, but with your advice woven throughout. So it feels more like a story. But then you said website copy can be storytelling. And that's something I generally think of as like very dry. It doesn't have to be, but it often is. How do you incorporate, how do you make something that could be really straightforward, nonfiction, here's how to, or what I do, engaging in that storytelling way?
So it's about helping the person who is writing, the entrepreneur in this case, get over the conditioning, if you like, that business has to be this cut and dry way of being or doing, right? There is such a change in the way people are doing business, and I think it's just beautiful. And we really go, okay, well, why do you do what you do? What happened in your life that made you suddenly go, I'm going to start this business, or I need to do this work, or whatever it is for that person, what's that driver? And you'll usually find that there is some event in their personal life, or several events, if you like, that have been these light bulb moments or these challenges that they've experienced, and they've learned from them, and then they've gone, right, I need to do this work, right? And so it's about telling that story and the lessons in that story on a very human level. That's how we're actually teaching, because nobody wants to read this textbook like business book, right? And we've all read those, and it's like we plow through them like walking through swamp mud, and it's like, oh, when is this going to end? Like, and yeah, you may learn one or two things, but it wasn't a great experience for you. But when you can make people feel, and you can move people with your words by being human in your copy and really connecting, that's where the magic happens, right? And even with website copy or email marketing copy, right? Nobody wants a dry, boring email. We mass delete them, right? We do. Unless they've got really engaging copy that you vibe with, and everybody is individual. Now, there is a great company, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it over there yet, but they're in Australia and they're in the UK, and they're called Unyoked. And they have tiny houses that they have all over the country, and you hire them for a weekend. But their copywriting is so unique and so engaging. It's for they're targeting creatives, they're targeting 9-to-5ers, they're targeting a new way of being. And they're like, we want you to be as addicted to nature as you are to your screens, right? And they have this whole message. As soon as an email from them lands in my inbox, as soon as I see a social post from them, as soon as I go on their website copy, you can tell automatically straight away that it is this brand, right? So it's as good as a logo. It's as good as the McDonald's sign, copywriting or writing in general, when it's done well, because they have used their unique voice and their unique value proposition and their unique values as a business. And they're just talking about it, in a very real human way, instead of this really, hey, we've got tiny houses, you want to hire them for the weekend for $3.95 and you get this, that, and the next thing. No, nobody wants that. They want to hear, do you want to go and immerse yourself in nature? Like, turn your screens off, no more 9-to-5, that sort of thing. That's how you connect. And whether you're writing a book, website copy, email copy, a social post, you are storytelling. You have the opportunity to tell a story, but you have to front that first. You have to know your ideal client or your ideal reader, and you have to speak to them through your words like a human being, not like a robot.
We're all just humans talking to humans, except,
Exactly.
with Chat GPT, now we have some machines, but it's not quite the same. They're not quite as human as we are yet.
No, look, I am a fan of AI on a
Me too.
segue. because I am a professional freelance writer, when you've got a deadline, you're chasing a deadline, right? And you're not feeling that creative writing flow, it can be really hard to churn out something. So I love AI for, triggering those little creative sparks. And then, I mean, you can't use just a spat out AI thing because it does read like a robot. You really need to bring the human into it. But it's such a valuable tool for when you're feeling a little bit stuck. Like, go and use it for inspiration or taglines or things like that. I found they're really good for that.
And that dives right into taking inspiration from your experiences yourself. So I heard you talking about how it's your story, your experiences, your examples that drive that storytelling, that engagement factor with the content and the lessons you're trying to teach. So the ideas and inspirations, they're not coming from scratch. They're not coming from something you make up or coming from something you lived.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So when I came to start my publishing company, I really wanted the experience of being a published author myself, because I have this kind of moral code where I'm like, I will never teach something unless I've put it into practice or I've learned it personally, or, I've done it before. It's just something that I don't feel comfortable doing. And so I went, well, I'm going to go and publish and tell my story. Which was nonfiction. And I had quite a traumatic childhood. So I grew up in Africa, in Zimbabwe. And when I was about 12, the whole country kind of started experiencing a lot of political violence. We were forced to flee our homes. Like, there was a lot of stuff. So if you've seen Blood Diamond, it's very much like that, unfortunately. And that was my experience in early teenagehood, right? And then we had to come to Australia, a country I'd never been to, on the literal other side of the world. We landed in the middle of the night, very disorientating and scary,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to kind of assimilate into this totally different culture. And, then I went through school and university, and climbed the corporate ladder, all that fun stuff. But I eventually ended up getting diagnosed with PTSD, chronic depression, and major anxiety. And this was all in the one sitting. And I was like, oh my God, what's happening? My 6-figure career at the age of 23, with my corner glass office overlooking the harbor, with the new car and the fancy suits and everything, just crumbled like overnight because I was unwell. I was unhappy, right? And I think a lot of us can, a lot of us can relate, And so what I do now is I tell that story, and I use so many different parts of my life. I got made redundant a week before I found out I was pregnant. And that's how I started my first business. And what was it like coming from Africa? What about resilience? I've had a lot of challenges in my life, and we all have. And I speak a lot about resilience, but I use my personal experience in my storytelling to let other people know that they're not alone, more or less. That's what I do for that. But what it also does for me from a business perspective is allow people to really see who I am. And that is the key. People will either like me or they don't like me. And if they like me, they're going to want to come and write their book with me, right? And I'm brilliant. My team is brilliant at what we do, but we're not for everyone, and no business is for everyone. But by me fronting up and telling my story, because I've got, the whole Tarryn Reeves brand, where I do speaking and I do writing and I do solo books myself, and I talk about my story, what it's doing is it's building relationship with the people who are meant to work with me, or who are meant to hear my story and go, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it too. So it's not just about this cold, hard business turnover. It's about, yes, of course, that's important. We want to make money, right? Because when good people make good money, we can do amazing things in the world. But it's also about that impact to go, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not alone. We all experience challenges. This is how I navigated it. Maybe you can find some tool or inspiration or drive to keep going within my story. And the more people that are brave enough to do that, we can change the world. Honestly, we can. And then there's all the business wisdom that comes into it, like we've written books on hypnotherapy, and we've written books on, how to scale an agency from 0 to 10K per month within 1 month. All of these really brilliant people just sharing their knowledge and their wisdom so that somebody else can pick it up and go, yeah, I can start my own agency and have it turning over $10,000 a month, because you know what? That corporate rat race is not for me. And, it's for that very specific person, but you can change that entire person's life through that book.
Well,
So,
no, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, so I told my story, and I published it. And this is the thing when I was saying about transformation is I had done a lot of work on, my PTSD, chronic depression, major anxiety. Like I became a qualified yoga teacher. I became a qualified Reiki healer. I studied meditation. I went down all the various healing paths that I could get my hands on. And I felt good. I was like, oh yeah, I've done all the healing. Like I'm fine. Like I've taken care of all my demons. I got halfway through writing that chapter in that first book, and I was in the fetal position on the floor of my office, sobbing for about 2 hours, because there is something about storytelling, story writing that peels off that next layer of who you are as a person and what you need to work on. So even though we're coming at it from like a business lead generation perspective, it does wonders for you as a human being, as the writer, as the author, because what that allowed me to do is, after I'd had that little meltdown, if you like, I honestly felt so much weight lifted off my shoulders. And what that did for me, it allowed me to expand into the next version of myself. It gave me so much more confidence as a business owner, as a mother, as a friend, as a wife, as a daughter, as me being an individual and how I show up in the world on mission, on purpose. And I could not have done that without going through that writing purpose. And then my business evolved and expanded from that. And then I could make even more impact. And each time I write, it's the same. Another, I don't always have a meltdown. That's not always imminent. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but there is always something that you learn about yourself and go, oh, like, did I just write that? That's brilliant. Oh, I didn't know that I knew that. Or, geez, that was really insightful. Where did that come from? And you start to learn these things about yourself and just how truly amazing you are. It's transformative. And then obviously you share that through the book and the marketing and all the things, and somebody else feels that. And then they pass it on, and then they pass it on, and then they pass it on. And it's this huge web of connection that starts from one little word on a page.
I was saying, I really like you a lot, and hearing your story does make me think resilience. It makes me think dependable. It makes me think reliable. Like, you're not going to give up on me because you didn't give up on you. And it does make me want to work with you.
Yeah. And you see, this is the magic of it, and this is a key thing as well. I was working with this group of authors at the moment on an anthology project called Wholehearted Leadership. And one of them said to me, and you could see it in his writing, he was kept trying to deflect attention away from himself, because we're taught, we are so conditioned, do not talk about yourself. Don't shout your achievements from the rooftops, because people will think that, you're egoic, and that, we've got this thing here in Australia called tall poppy syndrome. Like, don't stick your head up above the crowd. Don't stand out. Don't talk about yourself because it's bad, right? And you could see in his writing that he kept deflecting. And so I said to him, okay, let me tell you a story. And I'm going to tell it to you in 2 different ways. Number one, it's like they were asking me what can storytelling do for a business? And I said, well, I published in a book that was called Women Gone Wild, the Wealth Edition. And through all of that, I actually got my face on 2 huge billboards in the middle of Times Square. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like, this is something, I was like, this is a big deal, right? And I didn't tell it like that. I was like, I got my face on these billboards in the middle of Times Square, this little girl from Africa who had gone through all of this trauma and these challenges, and I'm only 35. I'm like, good God, like how much more am I going to have to go through, But it's all of these things. And I was just telling the story, and I said, okay, when I told you that story, did you think to yourself, oh, she's so up herself, she's so egoic, like she just wants to brag that she was on a billboard in Times Square? And he said, no, not at all. I understood your teaching point because you were using a personal experience. I said, exactly. Now let me tell it to you on another way. And so like my whole demeanor changed, and I went, yeah, you know what? I was on a billboard in Times Square next to Kim Kardashian, and they were like the two biggest billboards in the whole square. And it was so amazing that I was on a billboard. Totally different vibe, right?
Yeah.
But when you use storytelling and personal experience, whether that is a huge achievement, a small achievement, a lesson you've learned, when you tell it in a storytelling form to illustrate a teaching point, it lands completely differently. So you must talk about yourself, because otherwise it's not going to land. Otherwise, you may as well read a textbook.
I was just talking to my friends and colleagues about the show Severance and how I don't know if you've seen it, but it's basically the idea that there's a machine or an AI or something that separates your work life from your home life. So when you come into work, you immediately forget all of your personal memories and you only remember your work stuff. And then when you leave the office, you immediately forget everything about work and only remember your personal life. And like that separation, and then it goes into, there's obviously issues with that and it goes on and on. But I love how you're talking about how intertwined our personal lives are with our business lives. There's not really a distinction between who you are as a person and who you are as a business professional, because each experience and each world interacts with the other or even educates the other, per se.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that individuals showing up, whether that's in a corporate workplace or their own business, as all of who they are, mess and all, right, is so important, because we each have something so unique to bring to the table. And all of that is based on our past experiences, our current experience, and our future expectations. Because your reality really is just a story that you've told yourself. It's a story that you made up based on those three kind of compartments of your life. The amazing thing about that is you get to pick up the pen or turn the page and rewrite the story again and again and again. There's no limit, right? And so it's this constant evolution as a human being that you have such creative freedom over, right? And none of it is separate, especially as an entrepreneur. Like, we do what we do because of something that happened to us, or the experiences that have happened to us, or the why. Simon Sinek, your why is what drives you. Everybody knows Simon, right? And his book, like, transformative, right? Because it changes the way you think. It's like, why do I do what I do? Nobody wants to be a cog in the machine. We're not made to be that, right? We're not human doings, we're human beings. Like, you being you and doing what you came here to do and sharing your unique gifts, whether that's in a corporate setting, as a stay-at-home mom, a stay-at-home dad, like an entrepreneur, all of it is valuable and relevant.
Thank you for sharing all of these insights and for sharing so much of your personal story. Like you said, it takes a lot of bravery, and we appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure.
I want to give you the chance. Tell us where our listeners and watchers can learn more about you, about your company, and connect with you.
Yeah, of course. I'd love for any of you to come and play with me. Send me a message. Like, you will get me, because, I'm a connector. So come and, check out. I've got two websites. I've got tarrynreeves.com, which is my personal brand, or we've got 4eaglespublishing.com, which is obviously the publishing brand. Come and hop onto there. There's links to all the socials. come and friend me on Facebook, send me a message, send me a voice message. I love a good voice message. Happy to chat back and forth. We've got a Facebook group called the Business Book Accelerator. You can come and, play in there and learn some tips about writing, publishing, and marketing your book. And yeah, I hope to connect with all of you very, very soon.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. And listeners, watchers, if you've enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and share it with anyone else that might be interested. We'll connect with you next time.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Smith Publicity All Things Book Marketing Podcast. To reach us and learn about our many services, visit smithpublicity.com or send us an email to info@smithpublicity.com.